Video is sponsored by Simply Safe.
He is him.
Only one man commands the flight of a football.
50 touchdowns, over an 80 QBR.
The greatest start we've ever seen.
Mahomes magic.
He's 25 and he's Super Bowl MVP.
The face of the NFL.
The best player who ever lived.
That's him.
But then, in 2023, 13 quarterbacks saw a higher EPA per play.
However, the Chiefs prevail, and the critics were met with one response. Scoreboard.
Still a him. But a year later, we saw a different Super Bowl.
It's intercepted.
Mahomes turning the ball over 3 times in a row.
The Eagles have it. Philadelphia takes over.
Not really a him. It doesn't really matter what stat you look at. Mahomes' production suffered in 23 and 24. And to start 25, he is slightly above average. The chosen one.
Average?
Quarterbacks don't typically see this type of progression or regression in this case. A 23-year-old that's maybe adjusting to NFL speed, that takes time. You maybe take a step back, but you get better. Not a 3-time Super Bowl champ that's still in his prime.
Oh, man.
There were no serious injuries, no major coaching changes, no new significant others in the friend group.
Oh, hi!
Mostly. Yet we are witnessing a completely different offense, a completely different Patrick. Of course, Patrick isn't the only example of this. Mr. Irrelevant had a wonderful 2023, then a noticeable step back in 24. CJ Stroud, spectacular, then sophomore slump.
And again, we know it isn't always a step back. Jake and Baker proved that it might not just be ability, a lot of it might have to do with Carolina and Cleveland. Jets too. But a lot of media would have you believe the opposite.
The most important position by far is quarterback.
The most valuable position, obviously.
It is always going to be a quarterback over a wide receiver league.
The game plan is get Patrick Mahomes in a position to help us win a football game.
Every single win.
In the biggest moments, you can depend on him the most.
Every single loss.
It's never been a more quarterback crucially.
The quarterback is responsible.
But how responsible is he?
In professional football, coaching matters more so than any other sport.
Not only people on the field, but the coaches, from the top down, the ownership level.
He's as good as his support staff.
Are we supposed to believe that Patrick here is Benjamin Button? That his perception and processing is somehow aging backwards? This can't be true. There's no way that this Patrick is different than this Patrick.
He's not. And this fatal flaw represents the biggest misunderstanding and misjudgment, not only for the public, but for organizations.
To understand this, we need to go back in time.
He was the best there was.
First quarterback selected in the 1969 draft, he was considered to be the greatest to play the position, but you probably haven't heard his name.
Boys under pressure. This is the quality Greg Cook seems to possess.
6'4", athletic, rocket arm, but unfortunately, Jim Lynch would twist him down behind the line of scrimmage in a twisted turn of fate, injuring his shoulder in the process. This forced Coach Brown to play a man who had far less talent, far less arm strength.
Virgil Carter, who had been rejected by both the Bears and Bills.
Because of this, they would need to adopt a new style. Vertical to horizontal. A new offense that the world had never seen before. Short, quick throws that complemented Virgil Carter's skill set, so much so that he would lead the league in completion percentage and lead the Bengals to their first ever division championship.
The Bengals had come a long way from
the man who brought this new offense to the Browns? Bill Walsh. Of course, it wouldn't end there for Walsh. He would quickly polish Ken Anderson into the league's leading passer. Then Walsh would move west and help a struggling Dan Fouts become the league's leading passer. He would also draft and build a man named after a state. Perhaps more interestingly, though, was Montana's successor.
Quarterback Steve Young had joined the Bucs in week 2 as an understudy.
After an abysmal second season with the Bucs, they dealed Young for just a few mid-rounders. They sent that BYU quarterback on a mission trip west to spread the word, to spread the ball, to work with Walsh. And it worked.
We congratulate you and give you the Lombardi Trophy.
For the Niners. For maybe the first time in history, we had a legitimate example of schematic ingenuity transforming multiple QBs. Walsh was inexplicably linked to all of these men, legends that would demand league-wide attention, legends that would solidify a well-known thesis.
I didn't think we could win if we didn't have a quarterback.
I'm not sure that he is good enough.
If you don't have an elite quarterback, then you don't win.
An elite quarterback can win.
You need a great quarterback. If you don't have that, majority of the time you're not going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
Great as in Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or Patrick Mahomes.
But if that's the case, what do we make of Jalen Hurts? Maybe you're in the camp that considers him a great quarterback. Okay. How about Nick Foles? You know, that guy that brought a Super Bowl back to Philly, the guy that was a backup that year? Okay, that was just Foles, though. That was lucky, you know, the Philly special, all that shit. And Hurts, well, these are just exceptions. Far from the rule.
That all makes sense, but let's just rank and sort this out real quick. Most of us would agree there are 3 elite quarterbacks: Lamar, Allen, and Mahomes. Next crew, pretty chill. Now, some might call this just good, but it starts to get a little murkier here. Go ahead and moan about this list. I get it. I mean, Joe Burrow, is he elite? I mean, he doesn't have the bleached hair anymore, so he seems pretty chill to me. It starts to get a little bit more convoluted. I mean, we're leaving out guys that are pretty good still. We're leaving out Baker, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert. They all seem pretty good to me, pretty chill rather, at least more stable and established than our next crop. A guy.
Just a guy is, well, pretty self-explanatory. This crew is whatever, and this crew is probably pretty frustrating if you're a fan on Sundays.
Okay.
And we don't really need to talk about this last one.
Maybe when we say you need a great quarterback, we mean one of these guys. I mean, it could be one of these guys. Also, possibly one of these guys. But also possibly one of those guys.
Wait, what is good again?
Brock Purdy wasn't even a thought. He wasn't even on this board. And then he was suddenly good enough? Goff was washed in 22, sentenced to 8 Mile to die. I mean, Pro Football Network ranked him as the 4th worst quarterback, which would put him here.
Look.
Then he went here.
Everybody from the 313, put your motherfucking hands up. Look.
Stafford, the other side of that trade, the year that he took them to the Super Bowl, he was ranked outside of the top 10 for many going into the season, outside of the top 10 and whatever category this is for a lot of people. So maybe when we say good, we mean like... So maybe...
Let's pause real quick. Let's look at the clever QBR, which neatly ranks and orders QBs for us. And if we look at the top from just a few years ago, we can see the best quarterbacks were... Oh, Tua in the top 3. Geno and Jacoby top 10. Daniel Jones at 6. $160 million man from New York that no tide to go pen could erase. Well, through 3 weeks, Indiana Jones has looked pretty solid.
Peyton Manning isn't even as good with the Colts as Danny Dimes is right now.
This whole area seems pretty malleable. Fortunately, I think I can figure this out.
I reached out to 3 different analytics groups, read all of Nate Silver's new quarterbacks rankings. I have finally cracked the code of the most valuable question in the sports universe.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
We don't really know what a good quarterback is.
What we do know is home security is important, which is why I partnered with Simply Safe. Ever since I became a massive celebrity, home security has become paramount in my life. The Simply Safe app is as it sounds. You can arm or disarm your system from anywhere.
You can also view camera feeds and several different features, giving you full control of the security system anywhere, anytime. Simply Safe is also flexible. There are no long-term contracts. If you want active monitoring plans, they're affordable, starting around $1 a day. You can install it yourself or opt for professional installation, and if desired, you can set up Active Guard, where you have a live security agent monitoring your security. Of course, privacy is always a priority, and they'll only have access to whatever you grant them. Old school systems only trigger after someone breaks in, and of course, that's too late. SimpliSafe will alert you as soon as something seems funky. You can also just have it alert you on any motion. SimpliSafe's AI tech ignores familiar faces and alerts agents to threats based on information you give the app. This means more trusted visitors, like your family, neighbors, or dog walker, won't trigger the false alarm. I want you guys to have the same peace of mind that I have, which is why I teamed up with SimpliSafe to get you 50% off your first new system today. You can click the link down in the description to take advantage of that. Thank you to SimpliSafe. Okay, back to figure 3. We don't really know but teams are willing to pay to find out.
4-year, $240 million contract extension.
Up to $503 million.
$170 million guaranteed is insane to me.
They have to at least spend $45 million.
Jared Goff just got paid $50 million.
I don't know about you, but I'm kind of numb to quarterback salaries now. It's just noise to me. Okay, Josh Allen got $330 million. Joe Burrow got $275 million. What about the percentages? What percentage of that pie do quarterbacks digest? 14 years ago, 2 quarterbacks consumed 17% of the cap. That story continued for 8 years. And a slight bump, then it nearly sextupled. That's a funny word. Mahomes and Watson were the first to eclipse the 19% threshold, as pointed out by Jeff Howe in his QB pay analysis. Then 9 players crossed in 2022. And that year's top 4 QBs have done Yeah. Caveman, Mr. Unlimited, Call of Duty. I'm not going to give a nickname for this last one here, but not a great investment. Cowboy. By this measure, Mahomes isn't overpaid, he's underpaid. And thus, from a cap perspective, he is underrated. But this is nuanced for a few reasons. It assumes that these valuations are correct. Certain investments are fairly straightforward. For most of modern history, it made a lot more sense to do this than this. Then some things changed. Skyrocketing interest rates, a shortage of supply, among other things that drove up appreciation and priced a lot of people out of the ability to even buy a home. But even for those that could, they were left with an opportunity cost question. I have a finite amount of money, and when I run this calculation, there's a certain point in time where this no longer makes sense in comparison to this. Investing in a quarterback is similar. Team only has so much money, so they have to decide how valuable is that quarterback to us. In a way, they have to draw a line. If they go above that line, the benefit of having that specific quarterback is outweighed by the inability to get good surrounding talent. There is a tipping point in this decision. Unfortunately, determining value is a little less straightforward than a rent versus buy calculator, as Figure 3 demonstrates. So what should a team do?
I honestly don't think we're even at the point of being overrated.
That's Kevin Cole, former senior data scientist at PFF and creator of Unexpected Points.
We just wipe out the entire NFL salary base and we're going to start from square one with no assumptions about where players should be, none of that kind of weighing on our decision, these anchors. I'm not sure the middle class of quarterbacks is being overpaid in that sort of circumstance.
While QB sums may seem out of orbit today, the nerds have been asking for this for years. Think of it like the Moneyball of football. Despite being paid the most by far, quarterbacks were significantly undervalued less than 10 years ago. Teams were running the ball more than they probably should have been, especially in early down situations, and teams hadn't widely discovered that this, mobility, was especially valuable, making the quarterback an even more coveted asset.
We're no longer looking for the next Peyton Manning. It's a guy that can move.
Boy, did he put a move on Sam Hubbard right here. Burn on the afterburners. He's gone. No one's going to get him. Incredible.
It poses a problem that many of us can relate to in our own personal lives, such as the rent versus buy example. While the market may be telling us what it believes the price is for something, the question remains, what is the true value? Back to Figure 3. Regardless, this is the market teams have to work with, and that market is forcing a lot of teams to do something more than ever.
Jackson Dart, quarterback.
Tyler Shuck, quarterback, Louisville.
Wow. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback, Oregon.
Quarterback.
All 6 of the quarterbacks are gone.
It isn't just affecting drafting. A rookie quarterback like Cam Ward here has a very special period of time.
Ignition sequence about 3 hours.
The launch window.
A window of time to learn the playbook. A window to get NFL ready. A window where they are cheap.
4-year deal for just shy of $49 million.
And lately, that window has been thinning.
In 2018, we had 8 quarterbacks with less than 5 years of experience. By 2023, that number had nearly doubled. 15 quarterbacks were still on their rookie deals. The average age of a Week 1 quarterback has fallen by nearly 3 years in that time.
This was a guy that was as polished as any prospect to come into the league.
That's Zach Kiefer, the Athletic, who had a chance to speak with a lot of QB legends, including Andrew Luck.
And I explained all the things that rookie quarterbacks face, and Andrew said, for the first time, and I've known this guy for 15 years, he said, it's all of that, and then pour some gasoline on it. And I was like, Andrew, you went 11-5 with your coach in the hospital.
Yeah, maybe the best start ever for a rookie quarterback, right? Like,
considering the circumstances, he took a bad team, and that's Bruce Arians' words. And one of the most interesting things I got in the entire process was telling that to Kevin O'Connell, telling that Andrew Luck said that. And he was quiet for a couple of seconds, and then he said, Andrew Luck admitting that validates everything I've ever heard about the quarterback position.
I mean, it's incredibly valuable if you can get a young quarterback to perform well, and you need to see them play in a game in order for that to happen. But if you push them too soon and they maybe don't have supporting talent, they might flame out.
Drafting isn't the only route. Let's explore a few pathways and misconceptions when it comes to finding the right quarterback.
The first pathway is the obvious. If you have one of these guys, an elite quarterback, invest in him.
Perhaps the most recent version of Mahomes provides a floor for what elite quarterback play can produce. His receivers have led the league in drops. Kelsey's gotten a little bit older, and, well, losing Tyreek Hill undeniably hurt their big playability. Last season, the Chiefs were near the bottom in explosive passes and explosive runs. It's very hard to be a good offense without explosive plays. Long drives have a lot more room for error.
Reflected at the line of scrimmage.
It's worth noting that even elite quarterbacks see significant fluctuation if given long enough periods of play.
Brady and Manning had 2 of the best seasons we have ever seen for a quarterback, when they had the right supporting talent and scheme. Like Mahomes, they also won Super Bowls with good but not elite production. Looking at Kevin Cole's analysis, Brady effectively had 4 different eras where he took a step back. Not a minor one, but a fairly significant one. And there were plenty of reports that his window was done.
Manning saw a similar fluctuation. A big part of his revival in Denver was his strong supporting cast, but as those weapons deteriorated, so did Manning's play. His final season, by virtually every measure, he was bad. 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. And he won a Super Bowl. I think a lot of this delusion, at least for myself, is simplicity. We compress their entire career into a single frame, and we maybe forget the fact that over a long period of time, they had some very average years.
There's also a certain aura to a quarterback, a rising tide that can lift those around him, even when production or ability struggles.
All you gotta do is be us. Let's get it, baby.
Now again, this is the obvious, but it's the QBs just outside of this group. This is where it starts to get challenging. If you don't have one of these elite quarterbacks, you should absolutely be drafting one. Just so we're clear, that means roughly 27 to 29 teams should be considering drafting a quarterback every single year.
Of course, you don't want to waste that pick, but even if you are drafting in the late first or second, your organization should have a significant amount of tolerance for that quarterback, even if that pick busts. If we look at the 32 starting quarterbacks from this year, 14 came from outside the top 10. It is a highly unpredictable position.
Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are a perfect representation of this. We are quick to forget the reaction when they drafted Jalen Hurts.
If I am Carson Wentz, I'm going to demand a trade.
What are you going to do with Carson Wentz?
I don't get what you're trying to do.
I wanted him to go somewhere where I'd say, aha, he's got a shot.
That worked out pretty well for him.
Touchdown, Philadelphia!
And perhaps the greatest example of this is the single organization without a single traditional owner, the Packers.
You've had seamless, great quarterback play since 1992. How many other teams can say that?
The third place or pathway is incredibly strange. As we've discovered, We don't really know what good is, and every year there will be some quarterback that comes from outside of the top 20 that suddenly appears good or very good.
In the new age, this is seen as
the death zone.
I mean, the list of quarterbacks making more than Lamar and Mahomes is chilling.
Many think it's a complete waste to go after a middle-class quarterback. I tend to disagree.
I put together a list of notable quarterback signings since 2020 and grouped them into two categories: prove it and kind of a big deal. The prove it category being one-year deals where a team basically has no obligation.
Notably, every big sign or multi-year payday for a quarterback, it hasn't worked well since 2020.
Bucks are the Super Bowl champs. What's that?
A single one of these contracts has yet to make the playoffs, though Sam Darnold may have the best chance so far in Seattle. Notably, however, the Seahawks deal with Darnold looks different than, say, Kirk Cousins. Almost half of the guaranteed money for a guy 10 years younger than Kirk.
Interestingly, the prove it category has boded okay for teams. Geno, Darnold, Baker, they've all produced playoff runs. And remember that this comes with very little risk.
Alex Smith is down.
If it doesn't work out, you can move on to another quarterback the next year, or importantly, just keep drafting one.
The Kansas City Chiefs no longer have a first-round pick. Wow.
The Kansas City Chiefs select Patrick Mahomes, the second.
Very little risk.
Quick reminder, when Mahomes was drafted, Alex Smith was the established starter. Multiple playoff appearances, the Chiefs were doing well, and they still drafted a quarterback in the first round.
As Alex Smith said, all of these teams would kill to have a franchise quarterback. Only few of them actually know what they're doing when they get one.
The key in all of these pathways, managing risk. In many areas of life, there's a fair amount of uncertainty. What investments to choose, what relationships to get into. The quarterback is no different. Even when a quarterback does good, we don't really know why they do good. Otherwise, we'd be more accurate in our predictions with things like free agency. This is different than other positions, like I pointed out in my entanglement video. So while the quarterback is the most important position, he is simultaneously the most dependent. And that means Patrick here, he is the most overrated and underrated player on his team. Paid less than he should be, credited, good and bad, more than he should be. That is hilarious. And that's true for basically every quarterback.
There's so much more to quarterback than what stats show. Not that we're going out there to prove everybody wrong. We're just going out to prove ourselves right. You have to find ways to get to the Super Bowl every single year. And that does weigh on you, but at the same time, I think it's what pushes you to be great.
So, what is the optimal strategy for a team? Should they spend their money here on the quarterback and hope that he elevates all these average players up with them? Or should they spend their money around the quarterback and hope that that elevates an average one to good? Whatever that means. What we know is both those pathways have been difficult to produce, but building around an elite quarterback seems to have a longer window of success. There might be fluctuations, but a longer window of success. And my guess is that's because it's easier to manage one player and build around that one player than all of those players, the ensemble. Most recent examples of that, maybe the Lions and the Niners. We'll see what happens this year. Now, that requires a team to find an elite quarterback, and that's an incredible stroke of luck. It might happen once every 50 years for an organization. So what if you don't have that good fortune? I think for a lot of teams, it might make more sense to rent instead of buy. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and take care.
Want to listen to the full quarterback conversation with Kevin Cole and Zach Kiefer? Check out the podcast link in the description.